Now, I just wanted to say a couple of things about the DCEU and Zack Snyder. First of all, let me start off by saying that Batman v Superman is not a film comedy. It's not Captain America Civil War. It's not The Avengers. It's not Iron Man. Okay? Comic book movies before, especially since Marvel's come on the scene, we've expected our superheroes to be funny, crack jokes, have a lot of action, not a lot of plot, not a lot of story. Batman v Superman is a film epic. So for those people who say, oh, it's too dark, or it's bland, it's boring, there's too much dialogue, there's not much enough fighting, I will harken you guys back to a film epic called Gladiator. In the film Gladiator, it is a very, very dramatic film. There are action scenes in Gladiator, but there's not action wall to wall because the story. Film epics usually are not action-packed films. They're not action-packed adventure films. They're not action-packed comedy films. Film epics draw on the essence of drama. So that Batman v Superman is a drama thriller action flick like Gladiator. Now the problem with this was this. No one ever seen a film like this before. Watchmen was not an epic film. It wasn't a film epic. It was a thriller drama, but it wasn't a film epic. And with film epics, and that's why you hear certain people say, oh, the epicness of Batman v Superman is the most epic film to date when it comes to comic book movies. And no one had ever seen that before. And the epicness suits the heroes in the movie. Now, here's the other thing that people don't understand. A lot of people talked about there needed to be levity in this Batman v Superman. It was the worst movie ever. Again, easy to debunk, right? The worst movie ever because it was bland, there was not enough action, etc. Listen, you guys been spoiled by Marvel. This is not, when I continue to say this is not a Marvel movie, people don't get it. See, the critics would go and watch another movie, if it wasn't superheroes in it, a film epic like this, and they would praise it and applaud it. But because Batman and Superman was in this film epic, everyone was hypercritical about it to start with. And the second thing was, they wanted a superhero flick that was like a Marvel flick. That's what they wanted. Oh, it was too dark, it was too gloomy, it was too dreary, it was too sad, there was no jokes, Superman didn't smile. A film epic doesn't do joke. It doesn't do, it's not flippant. An epic is something to be taken seriously. All right? I referenced Gladiator, I can reference Titanic. It's a movie like Titanic. These are film epics. And there's a reason why people go and see these films again and again. But I just wanted to settle that out, that people have to understand why I call this film the greatest comic book movie of all time so far. Better than Superman, better than Batman 1989, better than all the comic book movies before, is because this comic book movie not only was meticulously done, and there's so much attention to detail in this movie, I'm still discovering things about this movie as we continue onwards. And I'm going to show you the latest thing that has popped up on the internet that shows that this movie is no ordinary comic book movie. Zack Snyder confirms Batman v Superman Easter egg, and this is from Screen Rant. And yes, of course, Screen Rant is going to be kind of negative, and they're going to refer to Marvel, and they're going to do a lot of shit, okay? But get past the shit and listen to the content, okay? So on Screen Rant here, as well as a number of other sites, a fan, the fan was Critical Mass. Critical Mass was able to see something that is really amazing, okay? So the Batman Superman fan, or the Batman super fan, he's a Batman fan, he dug up a real doozy via Heroic Hollywood. While watching the film, he cut a shot of a broken window that looks suspiciously familiar. And this is a broken window in the movie. You can go back in the movie and have a look at it. Okay? Using his Dark Knight inspired sleuthing skills, he noticed that the light through yonder window broke in a very similar shape to that of Ontario, the Canadian province where Superman's creator, Joe Shuster, was born, in Toronto precisely. Take a look at the broken glass in question beneath. This is the broken glass here in the movie, and this is the shape of Ontario. And here's the more interesting thing he says. He sent it to Zack Snyder, Klanos, and Larry Fong. I know this is reaching, but is this an Easter egg? Joe Shuster was born in Ontario. And you can go check out his Twitter, Critical Mass. Not to make assumptions, he sent it to Snyder. And Snyder confirmed, saying, he said, finally, someone noticed. And the amount of hidden things inside of Batman v Superman is not funny. I mean, I saw, Zack Snyder's daughter was in, his adopted daughter was in Batman v Superman. His wife, Deborah Snyder, the executive producer of the movie, she was at the end of the movie. The dog, was right next to Superman's casket. And there's nod after nod after nod of all kinds of things going on in that movie. That's why I have to look at it. I don't have the highest definition for the movie, so I can't really capture all the details. But on the boat Superman was pulling, there were people on it. I mean, we could just go on and on and on about all the little... I mean, Zack's attention to detail is ridiculous. But more so, what I wanted to say is this film kept you occupied. It's a film which... at least the theatrical cut, you have to actively be thinking throughout the movie, the way how they cut it together and splice it together and edit it. And then when you go to the ultimate cut, which is much more streamlined and much more, you don't have to actively think as much, even that is a masterpiece of work. And that's why it's called an epic film. And of course, they've been saying it all along, that there's an indie film approach. Now I've heard... Mark on Collider Video say, there's an indie film out there called Captain America Civil War. It's not no indie film, Mark. Stop being an asshole. There ain't nothing about an indie approach to that film. They copied everything from the shaky cam. They copied the idea of Batman v Superman. Don't be an idiot, man. Don't say there's an indie film out there. You know Zack Snyder comes from an indie film background. Even Christopher Nolan came from an indie film background. And Zack Snyder... in the spirit of Christopher Nolan, maybe Nolan referred to Zack Snyder, who knows? But Zack Snyder, he has this indie film approach, which is why the topics and themes in this movie always have depth. All right? Okay, I excuse 300, even though 300 had a lot of Greek mythology. To me, it didn't have as much depth as, say, Man of Steel or Batman v Superman or Watchmen. Watchmen was a beautiful piece of work that Snyder did. The ultimate cut, not the theatrical cut, okay? When it comes to the ultimate and theatrical cut of Batman v Superman, wonderful piece of work. And the thing with Zack Snyder that I like, and I'm just going to tell you guys right now, and even David Ayer, who's more of a realist kind of filmmaker, is that these directors come so very different in their creativity. I hear all of these Marvel tards trying to take the attributes of what DC is and that DC people have spoken about or people observing and try to apply it to Marvel. They try to spin everything. Even the media try to spin everything. And this stupid article does the same thing. Because the media is anti-DC, anti-DCEU, and they're going to try and show that Marvel is the thing. I've heard them saying, Marvel's not formulaic. Marvel... they've come out with Guardians of the Galaxy was a different kind of film to Captain America Civil. No, motherfucker. Same old film. Same kind of formula. Alright? They have the same formula for how they do their movies. Okay? Now, Suicide Squad did copy Guardians of the Galaxy to some degree. And that's why I said Suicide Squad is more like Civil War. It's more like Winter Soldier. It's like a serious Marvel film. Because Marvel films, they always have jokes. They always crack jokes. In all of them. Okay, so a much more edgy, serious Marvel film. That's why I said, if you're going to look at Suicide Squad, you're not going to remember the story in T-minus 3 days. Just like I don't remember the story of Civil War. I can't even remember the story of Winter Soldier. That's how forgettable those stories are. what you remember is some of the characters. I'll always remember the story of Batman v Superman because it's a plot-driven film. So, once again, I'm saying all of this just to make this point. That when you talk about Batman v Superman, it is at the pinnacle of comic book movies because it's done stuff that, yes, it's been done in other films in terms of how the films may be shot, how they may be edited, how the stories may be. They've been done in other films, but not in comic book movies. And Zack Snyder brought this epic to comic book movies. No doubt about it. It is going to stand the test of time. It's probably going to be one of the greatest movies, comic book movies of all time. The foundation, of course, of the DCEU. And for those haters who just want to hate on the movie, that's your problem. I heard again these guys making fun of the Martha scene, and they sound always like assholes. They always sound like retarded people. I've heard the logic being for the Martha scene, because you see, it had too many probability things. It was too what's the word they use? Coincidental. And I'm like, life is like that, dumbass. It's reflecting life. If Superman didn't mention Martha, he would have been dead. If Lois Lane didn't appear on the scene and Batman or Bruce Wayne didn't see Lois Lane, right? Remember, the Flash had told him Lois Lane was the key. Lois Lane defending Superman and explaining who Martha was. This guy would have killed Superman. There ain't no other way you get into Batman. There's no other way. Don't tell me, there's other writing and they needed to do more verbalizing. Them guys didn't have time to talk. Superman could barely talk. Batman had his foot on his throat, man. I mean, the idiocy has to end, okay? And as for the people who want to make the Martha joke, let them go ahead. They say Martha, and I look at them like, you're an asshole. The first thing comes to my mind, and then I say Marvel tard. I say Marvel tard because you got to be retarded, and you got to be a Marvel lover to not understand what that is. I mean, an 8-year-old understands what was going on there. So I like to say that. The other thing is they were trying to mock, because you see, they ain't got nothing else to mock. You understand what I'm saying? And it's because it's a hater, they're making this mockery. The lady who was doing that belly dance kind of thing, I gotta admit, that was really funny though. She was doing that worm dance, but again, she's an alien. Enchantress is not from this dimension. She's an alien. Been reading up on her. And so that kind of makes sense. That weird looking dancey thing. I don't know what the hell that was, to be honest with you. So I can understand them making fun of that. That was funny. But as to, the Martha scene, no, I don't see anything funny about the Martha scene that I try to make fun of. Up to now, it doesn't make sense to me. Except if you were a Batman fan and you wanted Batman to kill Superman, in which case, I get it. All right, you wanted him to take it, so it looked like he pussy out. Other than that, there ain't nothing else to it. Nothing else to it. And logic, it defies logic. People try to make fun of that scene. You got to be a Marvel tard to do that. You got to be a Marvel tard. You got to be somebody with a low intellect. And so, but you're very aggressive against anything that's not Marvel, DC. So you're going after that, and that's supposed to be a joke because it's not a joke to me. Yeah, I don't get the joke. When they say Martha, I'm like, and why did you say that name? Yeah, and you expect me to laugh at that? That's funny. I don't get the joke. What's the joke? Why did you say that name? Martha. You look like an ass. You know what I mean? That's all they're gonna get. Because why? Because there's nothing. What's so funny about that? There's nothing funny about it. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I just wanted to leave that with you guys. This is an epic, so you don't expect it to be funny. Epics are not funny. Okay? You think of Gladiator. You think of Titanic. They're epics. They're not funny, right? This is the kind of movie that was. And for those people who say, so Batman v Superman was not an epic. You kidding me? Captain America Civil War is an epic. No, Captain America Civil War is not an epic. The Dark Knight was an epic. No, The Dark Knight wasn't an epic either. Alright? Epics are big, big films. Dark Knight was a drama. It wasn't an epic. So okay, let me show you the definition of an epic, okay? So you will understand. And that pretty much solves it. So you have poems which are epics. Okay? It's narrating the deeds and adventures of heroic or legendary figures of the past history of a nation. An exceptionally long and arduous task or activity. Adjective, relating to a characteristic of an epic or epics, heroic or grand in scale. So it has to be massive in scale. The thing about why Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises will never be epics is because it was a small scale. It was only dealing with Gotham. An epic deals with the world. It impacts the world. Rome was the world back in the day with Gladiator. With Titanic, it was the world focused on the ship, right? Batman, the whole world wasn't focused on Gotham, right? It's just a movie about Gotham, so it will never be an epic. Got it? All right, guys, you have a great one.